Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, examining if DNA can get you EU citizenship. We've just got a couple of things to go through just before we start. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the questions in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more of this content. Lastly, if you'd like, please fill out the webinar survey through the link in our description. So let's see what we'll cover today. Today, we're going to go through if DNA results can get you EU citizenship, what's required to obtain EU citizenship, how to speed up the citizenship process, and then afterwards, we'll have a live Q&A with Eva and our guest speaker. Now, so our moderator today is our founder, Eva Hussain. Eva is incredibly passionate about helping people gain EU citizenship and has a deep understanding of the process. She's a recognized leader in the fields of European citizenship and translations, and regularly presents on the topics of citizenship, language services, and European history. Thank you for joining us today, Eva. And our guest speaker today is Dorota Blachnio. Dorota is Polaron's Polish Citizenship Manager and is an expert in Polish citizenship regulations. At Polaron, she works closely with our EU citizenship specialists, and she manages eligibility assessments for our prospective clients. Thank you, Dorota, for joining us today. So let's speak a bit about Polaron. Polaron has been working since 2003 to help over 15,000 people obtain their EU citizenship and reconnect with their EU heritage. We provide administrative, linguistic, and project management support to our clients, as well as a dedicated case manager to assist with your client journey. If this is something that you are interested in, please reach out to the team and we would be happy to discuss it further with you. Now, I'll pass you over to Eva to discuss if DNA tests can get you EU citizenship.
Thank you, Eva, and welcome everyone. So firstly, let me tell you that this is the most popular webinar we've ever held. So we had about 450 people sign up. So clearly this topic is of interest to a lot of people. So we'll try and cover what it all means and whether a DNA test can get you a EU citizenship. But I should warn you ahead of time that it doesn't, okay? Better did mine, but it's a bit more complicated than that. So today we're going to have a discussion with our colleague Dorota, who's based in Warsaw, who, as Eva's already said, used to work for the Polish government. But we'll try and cover all other jurisdictions that we typically work with. So that includes Polish and German and Czech and Slovak and many others. And this question about DNA tests comes up all the time. So we wanted to misspell some myths and also show you how indeed you can use your DNA test potentially to help you get European citizenship. So Dorota, tell me, I've already dispelled the myth that you can use a DNA test to get your citizenship, but what does that mean specifically?
Hello, Eva. I would like to say that I'm not a genetic specialist, but if any one of our viewers already done this DNA test from, I don't know, any historic company, its tests say that you are 20% of some genotype, 20% of other genotype. It's something like Polish genotype simply doesn't exist. So basing only on DNA test results, it is impossible to prove in front of Polish government that you have Polish citizenship.
So essentially what happens is that you do a swab, you send it off to someone like ancestry.com or 23andMe or one of those companies. And what they do is they do a comparison with a pool of data that they have gathered to see where you sit in that pool of data. So the results might say something that you are 10% Eastern European, or 1% African, or 3% Viking, or whatever it means. But it won't come up with, you know, you're 100% Polish or 90% Polish or 25% Polish. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's very hard to distinguish that this genotype is Polish or Czech or simply Slovak, because as you already said, it is more indicated that it is Western Europe or something like this. And even small percentage of Polish genotype might say that you are actually a Polish citizen, because I don't know, in 19th and 20th century, borders in Europe changed a lot, and it might appear that you have 80% of Czech genotype, but you actually qualify for Polish citizenship, not for Czech.
And if I could just pick up on that and take us back to the very basic of the Polish law, let's say, Polish citizenship as a concept only appeared in law in around 1920. So this was well before we dreamt of having DNA tests. So it's not included in the legislation, and it's not included in legislation on other countries that rely on a lot of blood or ancestry for citizenship. How does the law in Poland works in relation to law of descent? Could you explain that to us just briefly?
Yeah, in Poland you have to have at least one Polish ancestor, and you might qualify for Polish citizenship. But you have also to remember that other conditions must be met, such as the time of registration of birth certificate. It changed during the years, but during the first Citizenship Act, it was that a child born in wedlock was entitled to acquired citizenship from father, out of wedlock from mother. So yeah, basic on that, we have to analyze those other conditions.
And in fact, you may consider yourself 100% German or 100% Czech or 100% Slovak, yet the law might say that you are not. Yeah, is that fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. And we have also to remember about the Jewish genotype, that if you have Jewish genotype, it also might mean that you are Polish citizen or German citizen.
Right. And one of the things we were talking about before we came live on air was DNA tests that prove paternity. So sometimes over time, over the last 100 years, let's say, someone's paternity may have been unclear, either through being born out of wedlock or whatever the circumstances. So DNA can actually prove that someone's your father, let's say, but can it then be used for the purpose of proving that you're a citizen of a country that we work within?
Unfortunately not, because, for example, in Polish legislation, there is clear rule that the birth certificate must be registered within the year from the date of birth, and both parents have to be listed on. And if this Polish parent doesn't appear there within a year, we cannot use DNA test result to prove citizenship.
Right. And that DNA test would have to be court approved anyway. It would have to have gone through some sort of a legal process in the country of birth of the child to be able to use. So you can't just turn up with a DNA test that's done online. It needs to be, approved through a legal system. For Germany, the paternity has to be proven within 23 years of a child's life. So each country's regulations are slightly different. But none of the countries that we work with will approve just a DNA test that you do through an online kind of system. The other thing we talked about, Dorota, is this, that in Poland, unlike many other countries in Europe, same same-sex marriages are not recognized. And the reason I'm mentioning that is that it's important when it comes to DNA. Could you explain to us what I mean by that?
Yeah, actually, child born in same-sex couples, there's the only case when we can use DNA test results. If the Polish parent is the biological one, it is a good start, because it's only the start, because we have to prove and those other circumstances that the date of registration of birth certificate, when the child was recognized or something like this.
Okay, so in other words, what we're saying, if there is a child who's born out of same-sex relationship, that the citizenship of that child can only be established if the biological parent is the natural parent of the child. So that all seems quite unfair and strange in countries like Australia or America, where in many states, first of all, same-sex marriage is illegal, and secondly, we have progressed, I guess, if I can say that, in terms of registering of children's birth certificates and all of that in countries like Poland. That's still up for discussion. And interestingly, even common law marriages aren't being recognized. So I know that we have a new government in Poland, and they did recently, when they were elected, they said that they'll try and make common law marriages legal in Poland. Is that right? Or relationships, I should say, because currently they're not.
Yeah, I hope so, because this is actually a really serious problem that we are struggling with, that those children born in same-sex couples cannot apply for Polish passport, even though they have decision about confirmation of the citizenship.
Okay, and that's a bit of a quirk in the Polish law, because you can establish somebody's citizenship, but there's no instrument under the Polish constitution to register that child's birth certificate. So although some consulates around the world that we work with are more progressive than others, there is this inability to actually get a passport for that child, because we cannot register the child's birth certificate. And that clashes with, again, the Polish constitution that has the good of the child as an overarching principle, I guess. So we are finding more and more children that get caught up in this gap, I guess, between being a citizen and not being able to get them a passport, because the birth certificate cannot be registered under the current law.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Those cases usually ends in a court, and parents of those children are able to confirm their citizenship, but then they are struggling with registration of birth certificate, and then are simply not able, in many cases, to apply for Polish passport without this Polish birth certificate.
But watch this space, because things may change. Poland's one of the very few countries in Europe that still has this clash of realities. Eva, I'm going to get you to move on to the next slide, please. So we'll cover some things about DNA. So we've already said, Dorota, that you cannot use DNA for citizenship, but what can you do with a DNA test that's useful for citizenship?
Actually, it is a good start if we have some indication that we have some percentage of Polish genotype or Czech or Slovak. We can start digging in our family archives. Maybe it turns out that some of our ancestors were from Europe, and via these test results provided by, I don't know, MyHeritage or something like this, other websites, it is possible to connect with relatives in Europe.
And sometimes, just a word of caution, sometimes those family trees that are created through MyHeritage or Ancestry.com also have errors or mistakes, or people put things that they believe, but they're not quite right. So just a word of caution that it can be a bit problematic, because it's kind of the garbage in, garbage out. Like, you know, sometimes people input incorrect information. But in this case, I would say, and tell me if you agree with me or not, Dorota, a DNA test linking you to someone should be pretty accurate, yeah? More accurate than people's memory or information that they have from stories or memories, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Because from when people emigrated from Poland or from Europe, it was most likely they didn't know English or any other language when the country they arrived in. So there are maybe many mistakes in the even in the documentation. So those DNA tests are really good start to build the family tree.
And oftentimes when people immigrated to a country like Canada or US or Australia or South Africa, they were kind of made to assimilate or integrate, and often they lost their identity, they lost touch with their families. Maybe the information that what was on the document was incorrect, the spelling of the name. Like, we have some clients that have 10 or up to 20 different spellings of surnames, depending on who wrote it down. And, you know, some were written by the way they sounded, other times transliterated from languages like Russian or Yiddish or even German. Maybe they sounded different. So having a DNA test and connecting to a family tree somewhere can be quite a precise marker of where you might be. And what the spelling of the name may be, or other information that you can actually discover, even though maybe you're not looking for that specifically. If I'm going to get you to go to the next slide, please. Which is turning this conversation on its head. Dorota, what is required to obtain EU citizenship? And we'll start with Polish. What does one need that's 100% needed? I think one thing we all need is a European ancestor, right? At least one.
At least one European ancestor. And this is a good start. Then we have to analyze if someone who wants to apply for European citizenship is meeting other conditions to apply for Polish, Czech, or I don't know, German citizenship.
But in principle, the countries that we work with have the same rule, meaning that, and sometimes, you know, when I speak to clients, it's a little bit difficult for them to understand, meaning that it doesn't matter where you're born. What really matters is whether you have that direct ancestor that's Polish, German, Czech, or whatever. And then what we test is whether anything happened from the time that that ancestor left to today that may have affected the continuity of your citizenship. So what could be some of those events that could affect your citizenship?
Renunciation of citizenship, army service, or being a public official. Yeah, something like this. And registration of the birth of the child later than 1 year after the birth.
Right. And the other thing that could affect your citizenship is legislation itself. So, for example, in Poland and Germany, and also Czech Republic, there were periods of time where women were essentially discriminated by virtue of being female or marrying someone. So Germany recently overturned those laws. So people that are pursuing citizenship through the maternal side may all of a sudden be eligible. And for Poland, it's between 1920 and 1951 that you couldn't hold dual citizenship if you are a woman. Yeah, could you explain that to us a little bit more, please?
Yeah. If you are a woman, if you naturalized, you automatically lose your Polish citizenship. If you are a man, it was a little bit easier, but because you are still supposed to serve in Polish army, so those military obligatory protected your citizenship until you were not released from this duty by the Polish government.
So that means that two sets of laws were kind of interacting with each other at that time, where there was law on citizenship and law on military service that kind of protected men because they were subject to conscription in Poland. But for women, it meant straight away loss of citizenship. So they changed those laws in 1951. But for Germany, they changed them very recently. So, and Czech Republic has about 20 years where these laws applied retrospectively that we're just waiting to change because they were essentially discriminatory towards women. Okay, so I have a German or a Polish or a Czech ancestor. What else do I need to get European citizenship?
You have to organize all your documents.
Yes, the big headache of documents.
Yeah, and Polish government, it is important that Polish government doesn't accept electronic versions. You have to have hard copies, apostilled or notarized, but by public notary, certified but by public notary, and you have to have translations into Polish language done by a sworn translator, accepted only by Polish government. So if you already have done translations, I don't know, in England, most probably you have to do this once again.
Mm-hmm. I have to pull you up on it though, because in many countries of origins, a lot of documents are created electronically nowadays. For example, divorce certificates, even apostilles, right? How does Poland and other European countries respond to electronic documents that are issued electronically in the country of, source of the document?
Actually, this is the problem we are struggling with currently, because we try to submit that kind of documents, but not all are accepted by Polish government. If there is some way to double check the origin of those documents, it is a good start. For example, from Argentina, there is a website, official government website, where we can confirm the origin of the birth certificate or marriage certificate or even the naturalization certificate.
So we should explain here that the reason that these procedures are in place is because these European governments don't know what an Argentinian or an Australian or an American birth certificate may look like. So one of the ways to, confirm that, and just think about the fact that there are 50 states in America and each state issues a different looking document. So an apostille is a way of the government confirming that something's an authentic document. So when it arrives in Cologne or Warsaw or Prague, the governments know that it's an authentic document, and there's no chance of it being forged or, being incorrect in any way. So that is why they still insist on providing these documents in hard copy. So even though we've gone through this digital revolution and there's so many things we do online, confirming of your citizenship isn't one of them. And I don't know, do you think they'll change anytime soon? Like you look at countries like Estonia, that's gone like pretty much paperless and fully electronically, but that's certainly not on the cards in Poland, no?
Yeah, but I hope so that, this view will change, because we can save the planet without producing those a lot of documentation, but I don't think it will be soon, unless it will be some global legislation about it, like apostille was and still exists. Maybe there will be some global website where you can check all the documents from another part of the world. That would be great.
That would be great, because I guess one of the things that has happened, like with things like currency, blockchain, In a way, electronic documents can be safer than paper documents, but that's not on the cards, not yet, some years to come. But going back to our original topic of DNA, what we have now, Dorota, is about 5 minutes for questions. So I'm going to hand over to Eva to see what questions we have from the audience about the topic of today.
Yes, we have some really interesting questions, actually. That was a great topic to discuss on. Thank you so much, guys. So the first question we have is, what documentation or proof of ancestry is typically required for European citizenship applications?
So what kind of documents, yeah? Is that
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, there are types of documents. Dorota, if you don't mind, I'll take that one on. So the first type of document is vital records. That means your birth certificate, marriage certificate if you're married, a copy of your passport. So essentially proving who you are, right? The second type of document is also vital records that connect you to your European ancestors. And that may be, again, their birth or marriage certificates. There may also be things like naturalization certificates. It could be a death certificate. So anything linking you to that European ancestor. And then any, I would call them heritage documents, proving that they were a citizen at one time, and they've been able to pass on to you their citizenship. And even though you were born outside of Europe, wherever that may have been, you kind of inherited your European citizenship from that ancestor. So the way that we work, and this is why it can be a little bit frustrating for people. This is why we need answers to a lot of questions when we do assessment, because we guarantee outcomes of people's applications. We don't want them to waste their time and money. So the questions we ask and answers that we get need to be very precise. And sometimes, and Dorota will confirm this, I promise, is that you can make it into being a citizen by one day or not. Just depending on what year you were born or what year your ancestors married or whatnot. So it's a very, very precise questionnaire that we send you. And it's a lot of information that we gather. All of that is done for free. There's certainly no obligation for you to proceed with our services, but we will tell you at the end of that assessment process whether you qualify or not, and the types of documents that we need for that I've just mentioned. I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Yes, great. Thank you, Eva. So I'll stay on the topic of DNA testing then. So we have another question here, and it asks, how reliable is DNA testing in determining ancestry, especially when it comes to proving heritage for EU citizenship?
Dorota, did you want to take that one? Now that you're a scientist, I don't know if we mentioned that to you, but...
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know much in this area from this point of view, like being a scientist, but those DNA test results, as I mentioned before, are really good start. Even though you have 1% of Polish genotype, it is a good start, and do not give up and start search.
I agree with that. So sometimes we start with 0. So people might not even know their grandparents' names or where they're from. So they may have heard stories. Maybe they have a box of papers somewhere at home and they're quite uncertain. So one of the things that DNA can do is confirm what you know or what you heard. The thing is that it's a statistical kind of process where they compare it to a pool of people that they've already gathered. So they just compare your DNA with other people. So it depends how many samples they have. And I think over the last 5 years or so, those tests have become more accurate and more precise. But again, as Dorota said, it will not say, well, by the way, you're Polish, here's your citizenship. It's just not how it works. And on that note, I think we're done, Eva. So I'll just hand over to you quickly for just some more information about how to contact us.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that discussion, guys. So if you'd like to email us or get in contact for any more details, please contact us at citizenship@polaron.com.au or give us a call to the number on the screen. Equally, if you'd like to follow us on Facebook for any more updates or upcoming webinars, feel free to scan the QR code on your screen or just search up Polaron European Citizenship and you should find us. Thank you so much for joining us and hopefully we'll see you next month.
Yes, and a big thank you for Dorota for sharing her expertise. So she is the person working behind the scenes on everyone's eligibility. So it's like being a detective a little bit. So thank you for spending your morning with us. And thank you, Eva, for facilitating today's seminar.
Brilliant. Thank you.